Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of the BigSlice Gamescast. I'm your host, Corey Stroby, and with me again, I have Jessica.
What up?
So there's a lot of topics. We did initially have something bigger planned, but we had one person cancel because of a problem with the work schedule, but we'll reschedule it for later. But we still have a lot of topics to go over. First things first, if you've been following Luigi's Mansion 3, that recently got a release date this week, and it is coming out on Halloween, which is pretty awesome for that game.
Pretty smart.
It fits really well. I mean, I played the first one a lot.
The first one, yeah.
It too, right?
Mm-hmm. On GameCube, back in the day.
Yeah, it's a little old. When did that come out? That was a while ago.
The first one was, I have it up actually, was 2001.
Was it really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
That's crazy.
But I mean, have you seen any demos? Yeah. I forgot that was his name.
Professor Egad. I have not played any or seen any demos of Luigi's Mansion 3 yet. No.
So I didn't actually take notes on this, but from what I remember them talking about, because I played it when I was at E3 and it was super fun. It felt Luigi's a little weird to control. Like as far as turning him goes, it feels almost a little like tank controls where he still moves in the same direction that the joystick is going, but turning him feels weird.
Like, are they trying? Like, they're trying to more streamline it, kind of thing, like smooth it.
A little bit. I mean, it still feels pretty much like the first game in terms of how he turns. He just turns kind of slow, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
But the main idea for this is like, so in the first one, each room had its own theme, pretty much, that fit the ghost. Luigi's Mansion 3 takes place in a haunted hotel.
Right.
And each floor is its own theme, and then like at the end of the floor you have a boss. And the demo, I want to say that it's the first floor is in the demo. It could have been a later floor just to show off, one of their favorite levels.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I know, that's going to be the first floor. But it's a medieval floor, so like
that's fun.
You're moving through the floor, and like, I mean, everything's medieval.
So like the knights, yeah.
Armor. Yeah.
Like the halberd stuff.
Yeah. And basically, like, so the whole floor is that theme, and as you go through the floor, there's like puzzles that you have to solve before you get to a boss. And that first medieval boss is you're sort of in this arena, kind of like a jousting arena, and the boss is just a ghost on a horse. And so like, I actually had trouble trying to figure out how to beat him, but then after that, whoever was running the demo at E3 kind of walked you through it if you were having trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I felt kind of dumb after he explained it because at that point it was obvious. He had a target on his chest that you had to shoot with actually a new mechanic where you have like this toilet plunger thing that you shoot out of the vacuum, and you pull that and it pulls his armor down, but you have to hit him at a certain time. I could be explaining this completely wrong because it's been over a month since I played it. So, but look up the demo for Luigi's Mansion 3. It's super cool.
The only little bit that I saw was when they showed it at E3. So that's that's a little bit that I saw, and I liked that you could. I mean, I didn't play Luigi's Mansion 2. I got to be honest, because that came out in like 2013 or something, and I was way too busy with college, so I didn't really get to play it. But in the third one, there's like the plasma Luigi, which I don't know if it was in the second one.
Oh, yeah,
but it's cool that you can like switch between the two of them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they called him Guigi.
Luigi, that's right.
Yeah.
Those clever people.
Yeah. So it's like you're switching between the two to solve puzzles, and like so he's impervious to certain things. So like if there's a spike trap, Luigi can walk right through it. And that's kind of one of the first things that you get to do with him in the demo is you bring up Luigi and you use him to get across a spike trap to, pull the spike trap down so that the real Luigi can get across. But it's just like a really simple mechanic, but it's thematic to the game. It's just this weird ectoplasmic Luigi, I guess.
I mean, that's something that could probably be fixed before it even comes out. So, I mean, with the movement wise.
Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible. It just takes a little bit of getting used to. But, I mean, it's pretty smooth. It's just that he's kind of slow as far as the turning goes, which isn't a problem. It's just something you kind of get used to in the first few minutes. It's just weird when you first do it. But yeah, speaking of Nintendo just announced this past week that they were releasing a new Switch model. So I have an article from Kotaku from the 17th, which would have been last Wednesday.
I believe so.
So it says,
yeah.
So it says this August, Nintendo is releasing a new Switch model with a longer battery life. It will be priced the same as the current model, and aside from the improved battery, feature the same specs. The new model's battery life will last between 4.5 and 9 hours, depending on the game. For Breath of the Wild, for example, the battery life will last for an estimated 5.5 hours. In comparison to the current model, the current model has a battery life that's between 2.5 and 6 hours, depending on the game. Once again, for Breath of the Wild, the battery life is 3 hours. So the technical specs, again, are on Nintendo's website, and I'll link that in the show notes. But it's kind of weird because by the sounds of it, the box isn't going to look much different, which I think could be a problem because if you're trying to get the newer Switch, which I don't understand why announce it the same week as the Switch Lite?
Probably because honestly, there's not much difference between the OG Switch and this one. So it's not like, I mean, battery life is huge if you take it around, especially because with this one versus Lite, you've got the Joy-Cons and stuff. But, I mean, other than battery life, there's not really much different. Like, it's not like, 4K gaming which Nintendo probably won't do for quite a while. It's like, it's nothing crazy. Like, it's not like a bigger screen necessarily. It's like, it's just longer battery, which is probably why they announced it with the Switch Lite, because that's kind of what their deal was too.
Right. Yeah, I guess one of the selling points for the Switch Lite, at least for me, was that it did have a longer battery life. So if you want to take it on the go, a longer battery life obviously is a big deal. But then they announced this, and it's the same Switch with a longer battery life, and it's like, okay, well, if that was the selling point for you personally on the Switch Lite, then there's no point in getting the Switch Lite.
Right.
And just get another.
Exactly. The big difference here will probably be price.
It might. Yeah, it's the same price actually.
Oh, then.
Oh, between the Switch Lite and the
between Switch Lite and the Switch 2 or Switch Pro or whatever it is they're calling it.
That's a good point. I don't even know what this is called. I think it's just going to be called the Switch, but it's going to have the longer battery life. I didn't hear anything about a new name. It sounds like it's still just going to be called the Switch. But if you want to look for the new Switch versus the old one, you can figure out based on the model number, which is something that Kotaku actually brought up on Nintendo's website. The original model number is HAC-001, with the product serial number starting with the letters XAW. And then the new model's number is HAC-001, and then in parentheses -001, or excuse me, in parentheses -01. So that's HAC-001, and then in parentheses -01. And then the product serial number starts with the letters XKW rather than the A. So that's kind of how you tell between the two.
So I mean, even the serial number is like, there's not much different.
Right. The serial number is even pretty much the same. The only difference is that extra couple numbers and the different letter. And on the same day, Nintendo announced new Joy-Con colors. So the new Joy-Con colors, I pulled this from IGN from July 17th. Again, that Wednesday. The two new Joy-Con sets, coming to the Nintendo Switch later this year are the neon purple and orange Joy-Cons and blue and neon yellow Joy-Cons. Both colorways will be released on October 4th and are both priced at $79.99. So it's the same price as any other Joy-Cons, just new colors, which is neat. It's not really much to say on that, I guess.
No, I mean they're cute. They're cute colors. They kind of look like I'm blanking on the name, but the one with the octopus and the paint gun game. That's what I was gonna say. But it felt wrong. It kind of resembles that game a little bit with the colors.
Yeah. That game's always had really neat colors. I never actually got around to playing it, but I want to. But yeah, the colors are pretty neat. Honestly, I may or may not end up getting a pair of the blue and neon yellow ones because it looks really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a boring pair of gray ones, so I kind of want to get new colors.
Nothing wrong with color.
Anything you want to say on that?
No, not much. I mean, the only thing with the Joy-Cons is, wasn't there recently something going on about how Nintendo's in like a lawsuit now because of the Joy-Cons?
Yep. Yeah, I was just gonna get to that actually. So a couple places have been talking about this, but I pulled it right from gamesindustry.biz yesterday. It just got announced. So this is Nintendo faces class action lawsuit over Joy-Con drifting defect. This is by James Batchelor over at gamesindustry.biz. So it says a class action lawsuit is being prepared against Nintendo of America as complaints spread of a defect with the Switch's Joy-Con controllers. Widely referred to as drifting, the issue centers around a problem with the analog stick where it will register movement even if the player is not controlling it. In first-person games, for example, this results in the viewpoint drifting to the side. Law firm, I am probably going to butcher this name, but law firm Chimicles, Schwartz, Kreiner, and Donaldson Smith is calling on U.S. Switch owners to join the lawsuit as it calls for Nintendo to address this issue. The plaintiff of the case is one Ryan Davis, who reports he purchased a Switch in July 2017. That would have been this month. This would have been a couple months ago, or a couple years ago, and found the left joystick of his Joy-Cons drifting after 11 months. He sent the devices to Nintendo for repair under 1-year warranty, but 3 months later, the refurbished controllers experienced the same issues. An extra set of Joy-Cons that Davis purchased separately also suffered the same problem after 13 months. So the law firm said, and this is a quote right from the article, Nintendo fails to disclose the defect and routinely refuses to repair the joysticks without charge when the defect manifests and never disclosed this material defect to consumers. And the official complaint, I'll pull it up here, but kind of the introduction to the actual lawsuit, and this is just the first paragraph of the introduction. I'll link the actual case file complaint, but the introduction just starts out as, this is a class action lawsuit brought against Nintendo of America, incorporated by plaintiff on behalf of himself and similarly situated individuals who purchased Nintendo Switch game systems and extra Joy-Con controllers. The Joy-Con controllers that are part of the Switch contain a defect that can result in the Joy-Con moving or activating on its own and manipulating gameplay without manual operation by the user. This defect affects the video game play on the device and thus compromises the Switch and Joy-Con controller's core functionality. And they make a pretty fair point. Personally, I've never run into this issue.
I feel like I have. Not a lot though. Not a lot to like where I would feel the need to, try and get them refurbished or whatever. But I have noticed sometimes when playing like Breath of the Wild or Let's Go Pikachu, like I'd set my controller down and, run to the kitchen real quick for a snack or a drink and come back and like my person's not where I left them kind of thing. But it wasn't ever anything like terrible, so I just didn't think much of it.
Yeah, I know. Back in the day, the GameCube would do stuff like that every once in a while. But I guess I don't know if this was a myth or it worked for me every time I did it. But there was kind of a hack where it would reset. It would kind of reset the controller. And it wasn't. I don't. So back in the GameCube days, whenever I was playing a game, every once in a while the character would end up drifting to the left. So like if you try to move right, then he moves right slower. If you leave it alone, he'll move to the left, or whatever you were playing. But if you held down all the shoulder buttons and the start button for like 3 seconds, the controller would kind of reset itself.
Yeah, kind of like factory reset the controller.
Yeah, which doesn't compromise the game or anything. It just kind of recenters the controller. And it works every time. Same thing. I think the 64 did the same thing, where if you hold the shoulder buttons and the start button for a couple seconds, it kind of resets the controller. I don't know if the Switch does the same thing.
Well, it probably just depends on how you're using it. I mean, if you have the Joy-Con or just one of the Joy-Cons versus two, or if you have them in the adapter, or if you have the, the Switch Pro Plus controller, whatever it's called, it just probably depends on what you're using.
Yeah, it probably does. Yeah, I don't really have any personal experience on this, so it's like I'm not really sure how bad it is. I'm sure there's probably a video somewhere I probably should have looked up, but I'm not going to go and do that now.
I mean, if it is, obviously enough people have issues with it where it has to be a lawsuit, but we're just luckily a couple of the people that haven't had to deal with it. And I'm sure there's other people that haven't had to deal with it, and there's people who have.
Yeah, obviously there's enough people who have to make it a case, but I mean, it doesn't really sound like as far as Nintendo solving that, it doesn't sound like it's a really big deal. Like, if it's not a problem with the controller itself, it could be a problem with just the connection between the controller and the system, which could easily be done through a patch. Well, I say easily, but I don't really know how hard that would be.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have to, it would cost Nintendo a lot less money in that case, because they can just have their engineers just patch it, figure out what the issue is and patch it up remotely, rather than having to send out a bunch of new Joy-Cons after fixing a hardware issue. If it's a hardware issue, that's going to be a lot more expensive on Nintendo's part to fix. But if you do have that same problem, I'll link the complaint and the website to sign up for it. But the law firm does kind of make a call to action to join the lawsuit, and you can fill out information and describe the problem that you're having. But it basically brings up a form to fill out to send in, and it'll add you to the list of anyone who's had that same issue. Because if it is a big enough issue, then Nintendo really does need to respond, whatever the problem might actually be on their end. They do need to, if it becomes a big enough issue, they need to respond with something. They can't just keep everybody in the dark, because that's going to look bad on their part too. But
I'm sure it'll get figured out. Nintendo's doesn't seem like the type that would not fix something.
Yeah. Sometimes they take a little longer than you'd hope, but I mean, if enough people bring up the issue and enough people sign up for that, then I'm sure they'll at least make a statement, hopefully sometime this week. This story did just come out yesterday, so they still have a few days to think about that and then say something. I'm sure we'll hear something from them within the next couple days, probably even today after we're done recording. But
yeah, possibly.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say on that. This next topic came out, this would have been last Tuesday, I think, but it's Ubisoft criticized for sourcing Watch Dogs Legion music through Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Hit Record. This is another article by James Batchelor from gamesindustry.biz. So it says, Ubisoft has announced another partnership with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's collaborative creativity platform Hit Record, and attracted the ire of games composers in doing so. Ubisoft has previously teamed up with Hit Record to create assets for Beyond Good and Evil 2, and has now announced a partnership to source music for the upcoming Watch Dogs Legion. Both times have been positioned as giving fans the chance to get their creations into an upcoming AAA game, but industry professionals on Twitter take a different view. Several also observed that Joseph Gordon-Levitt himself is a union member and does not work for free, and yet is enabling a billion-dollar games publisher to get its fans to do just that. If creators' contributions are not used in the final game, they are not paid for their time. Shortly after I looked at this story, it was updated. I think it was the following day it was updated. Ubisoft made a statement on Twitter saying, quote, "The Watch Dogs Legion audio team worldwide is already working with professional artists and composers on more than 140 licensed songs and an original score in the game. The additional contributions, no matter how large or small, from anyone within the Hit Record community are completely voluntary and are meant to give them a chance to have their own creative expressions included in the game." And then I just made a note that in defense of Ubisoft, they did come out and say that it was voluntary.
Mm-hmm.
But there's kind of two different sides to this. I know you mentioned that it sounds more like your take was that it was a contest.
Yeah,
and I can definitely see that.
To me, and I went to school for music, so I don't know if that's maybe why I'm getting this kind of thing. I mean, I believe the article also said that like the winner or winners, Ubisoft claims that they'll pay them, the winners, like up to $2,000, I think. So there's that. Of course, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I mean, to me, if you were trying to become an up and coming composer and you had this chance to have your music in a huge game with a huge, AAA, I just think it sounds more like a contest. I think, the composer, whether it's a student or an adult or whatever, wouldn't necessarily feel like they're working for free. They're feeling like, holy cow, there's this chance that my music can be heard worldwide in a video game. And I mean, that could be for like, so many other things, like whether it's, a student game dev, or like I've been in many photography contests. Like I've never thought of it of working for free, which I don't like to work for free, but if it's a contest, I don't know, there's just something about it feels a little different. And I think that's
like it doesn't feel like it's necessarily a job. It's just like a competition.
Right. It's because it isn't a job. It's not like they hired you. It's not like you're sitting there in the studio trying to come up with these ideas. It's you are voluntarily taking your time to write something, whether it's big or small, and have them, see if it's good enough to put in a game, which if that's the case, I am on their side. I don't think anybody's necessarily should take it as they're working for free.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of creative people within the industry, because a lot of I don't remember if musicians and artists in the industry are unionized, but I know they mentioned Joseph Gordon-Levitt being a union member himself, which means he doesn't work for free, basically. So I think what a lot of the artists and composers from that community don't like is that Ubisoft is a big publisher. They can afford to pay at least a little bit of compensation to anyone that puts their time into this. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the $2,000 that Ubisoft would contribute to the winners, and that's actually split among so like I don't remember how many songs they would be picking as winners. I think it was like 10. But that could be wrong.
Up to 10. That sounds right. I think I remember reading that.
I'm pretty sure it's up to 10. But
But still,
I'm sure anyone listening can correct me.
If, up to 10 things are being chosen and there's $2,000 being split, that's still $200. Like, I do get it. Like,
Well, that's for each song. So like anyone who worked on one song. So let's say it is 10. So that's 10 unique projects. And then anyone on each of those projects splits that $2,000 among each other. So like one project would get the $2,000, and then let's say that project was 5 people. That $2,000 is split among those 5 people, and then a different project gets the gets another $2,000 split among everyone that worked on that. So like the $2,000 is split among whoever worked on that specific project.
Okay, so that seems even better then.
Yeah, I mean, like each project that wins ends up getting compensated the $2,000 for that project.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, this is just a contest then. If you win, not only do you get the resume thing saying I've had a piece featured on blah, 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 but you also, if they hold on to what they say, you are also getting compensated. So.
Yeah, I kind of get what you mean. It is more like a contest, and Ubisoft was, after they were kind of grilled on it, they were pretty transparent on Twitter about like, this is a voluntary thing. Anyone who wins will be compensated, but otherwise everyone's volunteering their time. This is not a job. It's more of, like you said, it's a contest,
right?
Or a competition, which I definitely get. I think the I guess the negative side is just anyone who is unionized within the industry, as far as putting music up, or doing the music jobs. A friend of mine that works at the music store that I work at, his view on like whenever a musician does gigs for free, it kind of undermines the people who do it for a living, who rely on gigs to pay their bills.
Mm-hmm.
So like, that's kind of like, it's almost like Ubisoft is exploiting, or I guess exploiting is kind of the wrong word to use here, but I guess it would be the right word, but they're kind of taking advantage of that opportunity. So like anyone who just wants to get their music up or out, they don't care if they're getting paid for it necessarily. They just want the chance to put their music up, whether they're compensated or not. But then there's professional musicians in the industry and some do struggle to find gigs to pay their bills. And this is almost a missed opportunity for them to get actual work, I guess. This is kind of a weird situation because Ubisoft is a big publisher, but they're one publisher. There's hundreds of other gigs. It doesn't necessarily have to be this one, but it would be a really good gig.
I mean, I am torn. Like, I get it. I work 100% on commission as a photographer, so I understand doing something and making sure that you are, compensated so you can pay your bills and mortgage and blah, blah, blah. But like I said, and unless I'm just thinking it wrong as I read the article, but like, it just seems like a competition. My mindset is set to competition where suddenly compensation doesn't necessarily play a role, so I just don't think about it.
Yeah. I think just the last point that I wanted to bring up was like anyone who does the contest, it doesn't matter how much time they spent on their project. If they don't win, they aren't compensated for their time at all, unless there's some way that project can be used for something else.
Well, that's the thing. Is like, worst case scenario, your music doesn't make it into the game. At least you still have a pretty sick piece that you just composed. Like, I'm sure you can do something with it.
Plus, it'd be a good portfolio piece. If you have a portfolio or like any project folder that you have, that's definitely something that can go in there. You still did the work. It's still something you can show off. It's still something that you can use to get other jobs.
Right. I mean, you could always find your local high school or university band, or even just an ensemble, and see if they'd be willing to, play it for you. And I mean, I feel like there's a lot of things you could do with it. Like, it's not just like a pay me or nothing thing.
Right. Yeah, I guess, the main negative side is that if you do put in a lot of that work, you're not going to be necessarily financially compensated for it if you didn't win. I guess it's kind of a gray area, because it's like there's two sides that have very good points. On your side, it is more like a competition. Ubisoft was transparent about that after they were grilled on it. Or after people, complained about it, Ubisoft was transparent with what the whole idea was. And at the same time, there's plenty of musicians out there who do rely on stuff like this for a living. And when a bunch of people are doing it for free, it kind of undermines their work a little bit.
But that's just how the industry is. That's how any industry is. Right. I mean, I'm going to keep going back to photography because that's what I do for a living. But like, you can hire me to do your headshots, a wedding, or you can find someone who's going to do it for free. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. When there's people that do work for free, it always undermines, the higher levels. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know.
I totally get that.
I think I would probably dislike it a lot more, like this topic in general. I'd probably dislike it a lot more if people did win and got zero compensation. Like if they were just like pat on the back, like, good job, buddy. I mean, still, yes, your music would be in the game, which is cool. But I don't know. The fact that the winners are being compensated, I think, just levels it out a little bit more, makes it a little bit better.
Yeah, you actually win something for it. You get the compensation for it, and it's in a big AAA game. I think if Ubisoft will probably end up crediting anyone who wins too in the game.
Oh, so like credits, probably.
Yeah, and under the licensed music section, I'm sure the contest winners or whatever will end up on that list too.
I would hope so.
Yeah, I think that's really all I had to say on that.
Yeah. I mean, if any listeners have any other perspective, let us know. That's my personal perspective as somebody who works 100% commission, so I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can, if anyone has anything to say on that, you can go in the comment section on the SoundCloud, and we're on iTunes and Spotify now. I don't know if there's comment sections on those.
There might be on iTunes. I don't know about the other one
though. I'll find a place where people can actually comment, like one specific area that I can look back to all the time.
Or you could always email us.
I don't have an email for the podcast yet.
It takes 2 seconds.
Other than my personal one.
Just make one.
Other than a personal one. I'll make an email for it that'll actually go toward I'll keep everyone updated. Anyway, okay, so the next story, this is one that caught my eye just because of how closely I follow the industry itself. Disney hires former PlayStation portfolio boss to head up games licensing. This is another article by James Batchelor. Whoops, I didn't actually write the website. But this is gamesindustry.biz again. So it says, Disney has made a key appointment that should significantly boost its video game strategy, bringing in a former PlayStation exec into the fold. John Drake spent 5 years at the platform holder working on and eventually leading Sony's portfolio and content acquisition efforts. He announced his departure via Twitter earlier this month. This report, however, prompted speculation from our own Rob Fahey, and by our own, he means gamesindustry.biz, who posited Disney needs more experienced games execs on board rather than an acquisition per se. Earlier this year, Disney CEO Bob Iger addressed the company's past shortcomings in the video game space, saying, quote, we haven't been particularly good at the self-publishing side, but we've been great at the licensing side. So if you don't know who John Drake is, he's the portfolio boss at PlayStation. So he was responsible for games like Spider-Man, God of War, kind of the big names, the big projects that happened at PlayStation in the last 5 years, I think it said. If you're, if you know about, PlayStation's bigger first-party games, they've been pretty huge this console generation. Like I said, you have the Spider-Man game, you had God of War. What's a recent one?
Last of Us?
Those are kind of the...
No,
that would have been back in 2013.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have PlayStation.
Oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, those two alone were huge. One game of the year, and the other one actually just surpassed one of the Batman Arkham games. And Spider-Man is now, as of just a few days ago, I think, the best-selling superhero video game of all time. Which I'm not surprised
to hear. I mean, right. Anybody who ever mentioned the newest Spider-Man game, they were always head over heels for it.
Oh yeah, I played through it and all the DLC, and it was phenomenal. I wish there was more. If they came out with a whole new DLC, I would be one of the first people to buy it easily. I just want more content in that world, which I'm sure they're working on a second game. The way that it ended, it definitely teased that a second game could happen.
Yeah.
Without spoiling anything, they definitely set it up for a sequel. But yeah, another reason I brought this up is because John Drake's wife is Andrea Renee of Kind of Funny, and this new job is taking him and her to LA, which means she's not going to be on Kind of Funny as much. But either way, congrats to both of them, because that's going to be really awesome. But yeah, Andrea Renee is like one of my favorite podcast hosts or co-hosts. She's on Kind of Funny all the time. She's also on What's Good Games. She's also a prominent advocate for getting women into the industry. And yeah, she's really cool. I got to see her in person a couple times at E3. I kind of fanboyed out a little bit. I didn't end up getting a picture with her or anything. She was always, anytime I saw her in person, she was too busy with something, so I didn't want to bug her. But
yeah,
there's always next year. But yeah, she's really cool. But she will be leaving LA with John Drake to in this move. But that's not really a part of this topic, I guess. But anyway, so Disney did mention, Bob Iger's quote, "We haven't been particularly good at the self-publishing side, but we've been great at the licensing side."
I'd say
caught my attention because that licensing side is also EA's Star Wars games. So if we remember, unfortunately, Battlefront 2's launch, I wouldn't call that great as far as the licensing goes. That was pretty bad.
Well, Star Wars in general has had a tough time since the original. It wasn't Battlefront, but the Star Wars the old game. There was an old PC game for Star Wars. I'm pretty sure it hasn't been good since then.
The MMO?
Yes.
Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know back in the day it was awesome. I never actually played it, so that I could be wrong. I'm sure anyone who's in that community obviously knows more than me about that. That's a game that I never actually got to, but I mean, there was, when LucasArts was still running the whole thing, they had their own game company too, or the games division at least, and the Star Wars games that they did were always pretty decent. I mean, there was the Force Unleashed games, which I played both of those, and I thought they were great. They're kind of like a Star Wars, kind of a a third-person beat-em-up kind of game, but you played as a Sith or a Jedi. It went back and forth, I guess, in terms of the story. But did you ever play those games?
No, but I had friends that did, and they always liked them.
Yeah, and they were super fun. And now, actually, as far as the licensing side goes, that new Star Wars game coming up, I forgot who's developing it.
It's not Bethesda.
I'm blanking on the name of it too. No, it's not Bethesda. It's
I'm like running through EA, right? Or is it EA?
Jedi Fallen Order. Yeah, it is EA. Well, EA is publishing it because they have. I think it's an exclusive publishing deal from Disney. So EA has the exclusive. I don't know who the studio is though. I'm blanking on that. Is it Respawn? No, maybe not. Hang on a second. I'm looking it up. Jedi Fallen Order developer.
E3 seems like
okay. It is Respawn.
It is Respawn. Okay.
Yeah. So if you don't know who Respawn is, that's kind of a big name. Respawn did. I want to say that Respawn did Apex Legends and Titanfall. So they have quite a bit of.
Yeah, they're Titanfall for sure.
Yeah, they're Titanfall. They did
Apex.
Titanfall. Apex Legends. So they have quite a few games recently that were hits under their belt. And I saw the demo of Jedi Fallen Order just before I left for E3 because they showed that off that Saturday, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been during EA Play. And it looks phenomenal. It looks so awesome.
It does. It looks really good.
Like that's one of my most anticipated games of the year. And it's an original story. So like it's an original canon story for the franchise. And I think one of the things that I really loved about their presentation was somebody I think it was Greg Miller who was hosting that panel, but he asked the question. Apparently a lot of people were asking, or a lot of fans were asking if this was a game where you get to kind of choose sides, where, you know, as you play the game, can you choose dark or light side? And they just straight up said no. Like they were very committed to the idea that they have an original story to tell, and this character is a defined character. So no, you're not going to be able to choose sides because they're committed to the story that they want to tell. And I liked that answer because it wasn't just like, no, we're not necessarily just going to take everything that the fans say and try and use that in the game. We have a story that we want to tell. We have a character that we have defined a specific way, and we're going to commit to that. And I like that they are committing to that because when I'm playing a Star Wars game, I want to play as a character that's already an established part of the universe. Even if, I want to play a new character that is already defined. Like I want to know who this character is rather than define it myself. If that makes sense.
Right. It already comes with the story and you're just
playing through it.
Yeah. You're continuing the story through them.
But yeah, that's definitely one of my most anticipated games. And I think we'll probably talk about it on a later episode more in depth when it starts to get closer. I'm sure I'll have a lot to say about it when I actually play it.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, that's kind of the future of what Disney is doing as far as the licensing side. But I kind of went on a tangent there. But yeah, so John Drake is heading up the games division games portfolio stuff over at Disney. He has a lot of awesome projects under his belt, a lot of experience under his belt. I think with him heading the portfolio stuff,
I kind of hope that helps with future Kingdom Hearts.
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good point.
Because Kingdom Hearts 3, I know they have a DLC coming at some point.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, Kingdom Hearts 3 was not good compared to 1 and 2.
I think personally, it's my personal game of the year. I think everything leading up to the final act of Kingdom Hearts 3 was meh, but then everything at like kind of the whole last sequence was all just nonstop fan service. Like I enjoyed it a lot personally, but like I kind of get your point. It felt
it wasn't
weird.
It wasn't necessarily a bad game. I probably should have reworded how I said it. It wasn't necessarily a bad game. Like, it still had that Kingdom Hearts feel to it. But just in comparison to the first and second game, it just I don't think it held up. Which, of course, in the first and second game, I don't know, like, and it probably doesn't help that I didn't play, like, you know, the Game Boy versions either. I went from 1, 2 straight to 3.
You didn't play?
No, I didn't play any of the middle stuff. I went straight to 3. So I had to do some research before I began.
Yeah, I played through all of them leading up to it.
Yeah.
It definitely changed. I think that's kind of where it didn't quite meet your expectations. If you played all of them beforehand, everything connected. Like that, especially the ending sequence was a lot more satisfying when you understood everything else.
Yeah.
Like,
well, yeah, because that was like, like every 5 minutes in the game, they're like, "Oh my goodness, it's blah blah blah." I'm like, "Who the heck is blah blah?" Like, you know, like,
yeah.
So I'd have to like pause the game, go through, like, do some like quick Wikipedia, and they're like, "Oh, okay, I get it now." And like every now and then, I just kind of had like just refresh my brain on who's who. And I mean, like, some of the bigger names, like Xehanort and like Zemnis, like I remember those guys, but just some of like the smaller like Organization 13, and when they went into a whole other organization that I was like, what the hell? So I mean, it kind of got confusing, but
yeah, because there's organization members that were exclusive to Chain of Memories.
Right.
So like if you never played Chain of Memories, then you don't know who shoot. What's the main boss of that? Marluxia, he had the big scythe or whatever, the pink hair. Wouldn't really know
even
who
now,
that
I'm
is
like,
without
who?
playing. Yeah. He was the last boss in Chain of Memories, and he was hard. At least I remember him being hard. But yeah, that's a good point. As far as Kingdom Hearts goes, that is a Disney property.
Yeah.
Or at least a Disney partnered property. Obviously, it's a partnership between them and Square Enix, but but Disney obviously is an important part to that.
I mean, considering they put the whole Elsa Let It Go, I mean, Disney plays a pretty big part in there.
Yeah, that I thought it was cute.
The entire music video of Let It Go.
Yeah, I thought it was out of place, but I thought it was cute.
I mean, it was cute. I've never seen Frozen, so like that was my first kind of like ever time watching it, I guess you can say. So it was cute, but at the same time, I was like, was this necessary?
I don't think it was necessary. I think it was more. I think the way I see it, I think Disney probably was like, yeah, you can use Frozen, but you have to use all of Let It Go.
All of it.
And they're just like,
it could have even been a thing with Idina Menzel too. Like, Idina might have been like, hey, you want my voice, you got to use it.
Yeah.
So I mean, there could have been a whole bunch of reasons behind it.
Well, Idina Menzel and Kristen Bell both did come back to voice both of those characters in Kingdom Hearts, which I thought was super important, because how are you going to replace those two voices for that?
Right.
Although they didn't end up getting Mandy Moore for Rapunzel, which, I mean, whoever did, I forgot who actually did the voice for Rapunzel in the English version, but she didn't do a bad job. No. She still sounded just like her.
Yeah, I didn't really catch too much of any differences.
But yeah, I saw Frozen a couple times. I really liked that one. But yeah, kind of off on a tangent on that, but
kind of not at related. The same time.
Yeah, all still related. Kingdom Hearts 3, the DLC. I can't wait to. I mean, I can wait. now that we had Kingdom Hearts 3, we finally had closure on that. After 13 years, we finally had closure on Kingdom Hearts 3, but I can patiently wait for whatever I can patiently wait for the DLC now.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll hear more soon.
And hopefully the new additions maybe will hopefully play a part in helping with it.
Yeah, with newer Disney properties coming. Yeah, because now they have Marvel, they have Fox, they have Star Wars, so it's like, okay, how long before they can use that stuff in a Kingdom Hearts game? And that's all going to be up to Disney. But
I mean, if Sora goes to a planet where we get to meet Iron Man and Thor and everyone, I'm going to lose my mind.
That's going to be
I'll be like, ridiculous. Oh my
god. You have an Infinity Gauntlet Keyblade.
Oh my god. That'd be so
like
cool.
All the Infinity Stones are the chains. Like the keychain is just a link of the Infinity Stones, and then just a fist as the keychain.
You like hop in the world right as they're like trying to take down Thanos or something like that. Like,
yeah,
who are you? Doesn't matter. Get in here and help us.
Donald and Goofy both get snapped out, and then you have to fight without them.
Oh my god! See, we should just make this game.
Disney, hire me. I have great ideas. No, oh god. Now I'm gonna.
No, we're stuck on this.
Yeah. Okay, we need to move on because we're running low on time. Okay, so this is a follow-up story to GameStop story last week. GameStop plans to renovate stores, pilot new store concepts. This is another one by James Batchelor at gamesindustry.biz from last week. So it says GameStop has detailed its intentions to revamp its physical stores in an effort to combat slumping sales. The U.S. retailer has partnered with design firm RGA, that's r/GA, to, quote, focus on creating unique in-store experiences, unquote, that will make shopping at GameStop a more interactive experience. GameStop says it will be, quote, piloting new and streamlined physical store concepts, such as esports areas that, quote, offer competitive sessions in homegrown e-leagues, as well as, quote, locations that sell strictly retro gaming software and hardware. GameStop discussed last week that they were discussing a transition, quote, from transactional retailer into an experience-based retailer. There were efforts towards the tail end of 2018 to find a buyer for the company, but GameStop gave up on this back in January. So this is basically them detailing what they were talking about in terms of going from transactional retailer to experience-based, which we talked about last week, and we weren't quite, at least I wasn't quite sure what they were talking about.
Mm-mm.
But it sounds like they do have pretty decent ideas, but their stock, I can actually look it up, look up what the live stock is right now. I did see it go up a tiny bit, but I'll bring up what it is right now. So as of the recording last week, it was at 4 point, like, let me find the actual day. It was around like 4.9 or something. Right now,
so they're down.
Yeah, it's now at 4.02. So again, it went down almost an entire point.
Mm-hmm.
It was at 4.75 as of the recording last week. So it's continuing to drop. It did go up for a little bit, but it's still continuing to drop. So obviously their investors still are not on board. If GameStop pulls this off and it works, great. But it's like, we need to see more. Obviously, they're still kind of, I guess, prototyping and testing this store concept. And they mentioned select areas in the article. But I mean,
yeah, they'll have to do something because they're just going to become another Blockbuster and go out.
Yeah. Which sucks. I mean, I like GameStop as a store, but it's like you walk into a GameStop, like 10 years ago or something, you would walk into GameStop and it was nothing but games, just games all over the place. You walk into a GameStop now, and it's almost more like a toy store or a collectible store. You walk in, and it's basically a new hot topic, just surrounding more on gamer and geek culture rather than, I don't know, whatever
Hot Topic now is kind of geeky now. Hot Topic's nowhere used to be back when I was.
Yeah.
But that's another.
But topic. I mean, you walk in, and it's like I don't know.
Yeah,
it's more like a collectible store.
I mean, it's collectibles. I haven't seen too much. I did actually just go into GameStop within the past few days because I got a cute little trinket for my hubby. But it was Shaq's. It's cute. Anyway, so yeah, like it is different because like you said, it used to be wall to wall game, but now there's like toys. There's little like chibi furry things. Some GameStops are selling just straight up electronics like tablets and phones sometimes. So it's kind of weird with where they went with it.
They're just trying to survive at this point.
Yeah, like they're just trying to open up so it's more general, which I understand. You got to open up to try and bring in more money, but at the same time, I think it didn't help when it came to driving away customers.
Yeah.
Plus, like I said last week, brick and mortars are going down. The convenience of just grabbing something online. But I know there's a lot of people, including yourself, that like the material thing in their hand. So.
Right. And plus, when you go into a GameStop too, it's different from when you're looking at games at Best Buy. Whereas when you go to a GameStop, the games associates there are really knowledgeable about, about games. So you walk in and you get the experience of talking with them about it, and it's a more, I guess you get a little bit more of a social experience out of it when you want. Plus, they're super helpful in if you ask for a recommendation on a game.
They'll give you 5 right off the bat. They're like, which console? Here we go.
Yeah, like a lot of times they'll ask what your preference is. What kind of game are you looking for? If you say action game, they'll name the 5 best action games of recent releases, pretty much. So it's they're really helpful in that regard.
Yeah. I worked at GameStop for a hot minute back in the day, and it was a pretty fun job.
Applied for it, never heard anything back. That was one of the first jobs I actually applied for. Never got it. Excuse me, got anything back. But it's whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say on that.
Nope.
They made a statement about what they were kind of doing. We'll just have to look for more on that in the future, see where it goes.
Yeah, we wish you the best of luck, GameStop.
Yeah, good luck out there. It's a harsh world. All right, so just a small segment, I guess. There were 2 stories on this, so I just decided to clump them together. There's 2 developers working on combating cheating in their games. Blizzard is one of them. And this is an article from gamesindustry.biz. I didn't write down the date from it, but it was sometime last week. Blizzard testing automatic shutdown for Overwatch matches where players are cheating. So it says the studio announced the tech in a developer update video, which I'll link in the show notes, in which game director Jeff Kaplan detailed how it will affect the popular shooters community. He said that the Blizzard team has, quote, improved detection for cheating, and uses this as a basis to check all matches are being played fairly. If the system detects something suspicious, it will instantly end the match, booting out all players. Now, Jeff goes on to say, quote, we will make sure that nobody on either side of the match is penalized for that match being shut down. He also said that, quote, very harsh actions are happening against that cheater, you can be assured. So, any Overwatch fans out there? Are you an Overwatch player by chance?
I played it for a hot second, and then I didn't. I'm not really a big fan of games like that. I can play them, but I just get bored so quickly.
just like the competitive match thing. It's just,
I mean,
it's kind of the same game each time.
Exactly. And plus, I mean, for an adult, an average adult, we're usually pretty busy. So when we do get the chance to play a video game, it's nice to be relaxing and stuff. But then I get, you get on a, like a first person shooter or competitive game or whatever, and suddenly you're playing against a bunch of 10-year-olds who are really, really good because that's all they do. And you're dying like every 2 seconds. You're like, what the heck, man? Like, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. That's the thing with competitive games. You end up getting beat out by a bunch of kids because they have the time to play it all the time, whereas we don't. I mean, unless you're a competitive player, for your job. But if you're a competitive player, then you're in the Overwatch League playing with other people of your skill level.
And you're living the dream, buddy. Living the dream.
Yeah. But on that same topic, Respawn is working on matching Apex Legends cheaters with other cheaters.
I love this so much.
So the article says Respawn is working on a number of updates towards stopping cheaters in Apex Legends, including a system that puts cheaters and spammers in matches with other cheaters and spammers. In a Reddit update from the developers, Respawn noted that it was working on machine learning technology to help more effectively detect and automatically ban cheaters and spammers in the game, as well as increasing resources and technology at the studio dedicated towards stopping cheaters. Matchmaking tech that pairs known cheaters and spammers with one another is in the works and may already be implemented in the game. The measures are a response to ongoing community conversation and concerns about cheating in the game, particularly in Apex ranked mode. So both of these developers, publishers are working on combating cheaters, but in very different ways. Blizzard is more about just shutting down the matches and making sure that the cheaters are getting, punished in a reasonable way without penalizing anyone else. Respawn is just going to troll the hell out of all of them.
I love it.
I think that is brilliant.
Well, because the whole thing with Blizzard's take on this is it's kind of going to cause more of a minor annoyance. Well, I should probably a little bit more than minor, because games like that, you're constantly trying to rank up either your character or your gun or, whatever. And if your game is constantly being shut down because someone's being a brat, I had to watch what I said. But, someone's being a brat, like there goes all your stats and all the stuff you just worked for, and this, maybe you were doing really, really well and you were top of the chart, and suddenly it's like, poof, done, which is really annoying.
Yeah.
And then, but with the other one, Respawn, I think that's freaking hilarious. It's like, oh, you want to be a little jerk and, cheat and spam people and, be a little intolerable craphead? Well, guess what? That's what you're playing with now. See how you feel when someone does it to you. I just think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I really like Respawn's idea of that. Just because cheaters and spammers aren't going to stop. They're just going to end up making another account and doing it again.
I mean, so many people have little Smurf accounts. Rocket League itself is insane with Smurf accounts. But that's what it is. People do not care. They'll make as many accounts as they want just to get back in and be a little, poopy person.
Be a little jerk. I've definitely had experience with spammers and cheaters and just unsportsmanlike misconduct, which is an actual thing that you can report people in Rocket League for. And I've definitely done it a few times where you're in a competitive match and someone decides, oh, I don't want to play anymore, and is just yelling at you in the chat to forfeit. And it's like, we're winning. Why do you want to forfeit? I don't want to play anymore. Then why did you sign up for a competitive match?
Rocket League itself is just quite a game when it comes to different type of players.
Yeah, that's like my competitive game of choice. If I'm feeling like playing a few matches in a competitive match, or a few competitive matches, Rocket League is my go-to. I've been playing it since it first launched, but I mean, there are some seriously toxic people in that game that you'll end up matched with that just decide, oh, if you're not going to do what I say, then I'm just going to, if you're not going to agree to forfeit the match, then I'm just going to dive bomb our team and just completely, what's the word? Sabotage the match.
Yeah.
Like, I ended up with someone who got mad that we weren't forfeiting and decided just to start scoring on us. So, like, he was our teammate and just decided to play for the other team. Well, everyone got irritated by that because obviously it's a competitive match.
Right. Your stats are going to go down.
Yeah. Plus, anyone on the other side of the team, they're playing competitively. They want to play because they want to play. And when the other team starts to throw the game, it kind of defeats the purpose of playing competitively.
Right.
And it's very annoying. And so everyone in that match decided, you know what, we're gonna report you. So everyone, including the other team, reported that person for unsportsmanlike conduct. And I hope he got removed from the community, but Psyonix is a relatively small team, so
you never know.
If there's a lot of those, then that's kind of hard to manage.
Right. I mean, even if he did get removed, it's not like he didn't come back with a smart account. So
yeah, I'm sure he did. She.
They all do.
Yeah, they figure out a way.
But I mean, for like the cheating thing, I'm pretty sure, like 99.999% sure that GTA 5 actually did this several years ago. Because a lot of people can be jerks on that game in the open world and whatever. And,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure they created a couple servers where if you were like considered like a bad person, because it would count like, toward you if you kept hitting people or attacking people or whatever. I'm pretty sure if you did it enough, they would throw you in a server with other people who were doing the same thing.
Really?
Yeah, and because I remember my husband and one of his friends, they were drinking one night and they were just being, idiots with each other, and they both got thrown in the server, I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, they were able to get back out, like it's kind of like, you've been good, you can get out of there kind of thing. But, yeah, I'm pretty sure they did this, like, I want to say like 5-ish years ago.
Like that server is kind of like a timeout server. You have to go into the timeout server for being bad.
You've been a bad little boy, go get in the corner.
And then they just end up in a server with a bunch of people that did the same thing.
Yep. I think that's the perfect response, because it's not just like a little slap on the wrist or, saying that account is banned for a day, because like we said, you can make another account. It's you being put with people who are doing the exact same thing as you, and you now have to deal with like a taste of your own medicine.
Yeah, I think that's how you're going to penalize cheaters and spammers, is by giving them a taste of their own medicine. If you ban them, they're just going to make another account and keep doing it. But if you give them a taste of how that feels, maybe it'll turn them straight. Maybe.
So Respawn, I'm on your side.
Yeah,
you guys got this.
I mean,
Blizzard, get on it.
Yeah, Blizzard and both of them are doing a pretty good job, trying to combat that. But Respawn is definitely a little bit more creative on that front, and I thought that was really funny. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say on that, really.
Nope.
That was kind of the last main topic. Like I said, there was a big thing that I did want to go over at some point. Actually, you know what? There was one thing I did want to bring up on that front, because it's a little time sensitive. There's a Gamasutra article in association with GamesPress, which I don't think I've actually heard of them, but it's a journalism. It's for like game industry journalists and stuff. But it was just a short post introducing Girls Game Lab, the new game design and coding initiative teaching the next generation of girls. It says, from an award-winning team of passionate women comes Girls Game Lab, an exciting new nonprofit organization that aims to break gender stereotypes and help hundreds of young girls take their first steps into the video game industry. Girls Game Lab is headed by Kiva Roddy, the highly lauded freelance producer currently at Chucklefish. who was recently awarded MCV's Mentor of the Year 2019. Rachel Gregg Smith, a PlayStation producer and a regional coordinator for Women in Games, and Lucy Smith, a designer and co-founder of Women Making Games Northeast. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because there are signups for the Girls Game Lab workshop. The workshop takes place on August 3rd, which is in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And the signups are
like next week, basically.
Yeah, the signups are starting now, but it just came out. There's a sign up for it, which I'll post in the show notes. I'm pretty sure it's happening in the UK. So any listeners that are possibly in the UK that have any daughters or if you're interested in it yourself,
or you are yourself a girl, yes.
Yeah. There's more info about it. I'll put more info about it in the show notes. But there's there's a camp that's for girls age 8 to 12. I'd have to find the info on it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, I'll post a link to it in the description. You can look it up yourself and find all the information on it. Like I said, the workshop takes place on August 3rd, 2019 at the Playground Game Studio in Leamington Spa. But yeah, you can sign up for it. I'll probably bring that up again during that segment, but we'll save that for when we have another guest on, Rebecca Latson.
Specialty.
Yeah, it'll be a cool segment, for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to do that one.
But yeah, I had someone, kind of a colleague and friend from school. She was shoot, I forgot the actual. I'm pretty sure she was computer animation. Was her degree program at Full Sail, but she's a fellow Full Sail alum. That's where I graduated from. But anyway, once we sync up our schedules and have her on the show, then we'll do that segment, and it'll be kind of a bigger segment. It'll take up most of the podcast, I'm sure. But yeah,
probably lots of issues.
Yeah, but I think that's pretty much all we have to talk about this week. Are there any games that you're currently playing or playing this upcoming weekend?
I am currently playing Life is Strange 2. I just finished the first episode. Holy cats.
Yeah.
But it's a phenomenal game. I can't wait to continue playing.
Yeah, I finished the third episode a few weeks ago. It definitely takes some turns for sure.
I believe it.
Yeah, as far as emotional pacing, it's right around Life is Strange, the first season. It gets pretty wild. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's really, really awesome. I'm a huge fan of that series.
Yeah, it's good. If you haven't played Life is Strange, I highly suggest do it.
Yeah.
I'm sad it took me so long to get into it.
It took me a while too. I think the first Life is Strange had already been out for like a year before I actually got around to playing it.
Yeah.
And
I just did it like a few months ago.
Yeah, you've been binge playing the entire series up to this point.
Yeah, and actually it kind of worked out the way I ended up doing it because I binged series or the first, season, because it's so good, and then went on to, Before the Storm, which is like their little DLC, you kind of want to call it.
Yeah, it's kind of a little mini series or a mini season prequel to the first season.
Yeah, and then they have like a cute little episode of Captain. What is it? Captain Strange? No, Captain something.
Captain Spirit.
Captain Spirit. Yeah, there we go. Captain Spirit. They have like this cute little episode. It's kind of like a prequel into the new Life is Strange 2. And that's a good one.
Yeah, that was.
The first episode was like, blah. Yeah. Like I was messaging you. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it takes a turn really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so good.
Highly recommend that series. Start from the first one. The order to play it in is Life is Strange, the first season, then play Before the Storm, along with the bonus episode.
Yes.
And then play Captain Spirit, and then start season 2, which I think the next episode comes out in August. And then the last
soon,
episode,
I think, yeah.
I think the last episode might be somewhere around November.
Oh God, it's so long.
I think they announced that at some point. I could be wrong.
I'm sure it says on the game too.
Yeah, but yeah, I cannot wait for the next episode. That's a really, really awesome series, and I highly, highly recommend playing it.
Definitely. So yeah, I'm doing that. Plus your usual Minecraft realmness.
Yeah,
and replaying, like I said, Breath of the Wild for the 3rd time. Almost done with it though. Almost 200%.
I still have to play through that my first time. I haven't even picked it up yet. I own it, but I never got around to playing it. That's one that I definitely need to play. I honestly haven't played anything in the last week. I've been super busy with, I've been doing a lot of research for the podcast itself and getting it set up so that it's on iTunes, on Spotify, probably other places too. I was preparing for a job interview that I had yesterday. I applied for a temporary QA position at Deep Silver Volition. If you're not sure who that developer is, it's if you've ever played Saints Row, I want to say they did that whole series. They also
Dubstep Gun.
Yeah, they also did some outsourcing for testing the Darksiders games that Vigil did. But yeah, so I've been super busy with that. But I do plan on getting back into Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I'm still working through the DLC. I've been playing. I want to get back into the Ace Attorney games. I was on the first episode or the first case of the second game on Switch, and so those are kind of the two main.
Game I did look into.
Yeah, it's super fun. But yeah, we are out of time, so.
Yep.
Thank you so much for listening. Again, you can find the podcast at BigSlice Gamescast over on iTunes, the SoundCloud page, and now Spotify. You can find me at Strobe Official on Twitter. That's at STROBBE Official. And on Facebook at facebook.com/BigSliceGames. Jessica, where can they find you?
You can find me. I have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find me at my business for Jailboone Photography. That's JLBOONE Photography. Just hit me up anytime if you have any questions regarding, video games or photography. Awesome.
And you can find those in the description and show notes to make that a little easier. Yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.